Hey everybody. I don't do it very often, but some of you ask me how I roll my dumplings. So I'm going to tell you, this is sort of your tutorial, we'll say. First I start off with a 6-pound box of Bisquick. I get my Bisquick from Sam's Club. I've not seen it in a 6-pound box anywhere except Sam's Club. You can get maybe a 5-pound box at Walmart sometimes, or possibly Kroger, but most of the time they just have the smaller boxes. But at Sam's Club, I buy them 5 and 10 at a time because dumplings are my big, seller, we'll say. Not only that, they're easy. I won't say easy. Dumplings are inexpensive, especially if you, I'm going to give my secrets away. When supper ready. These are for future, maybe next week some. These are for future chicken and dumpling orders. Here's what I do. I get the 6-pound box of Bisquick in my biggest bowl. I had a bigger one than this, but I sold it. And 12 egg yolks, not the white, just the yolk. And then milk, 2% milk. I saw a chef one time try it with buttermilk. I couldn't tell a difference, so I just stick with milk. So, and then I mix that up, and it has to be like biscuit consistency. You don't want it real thin, because then you have to I use a little scoop. That way mine are all the same size. Anyway, and I put it in the flour, and I only use one kind of flour. I'm hooked on it, and nothing else will do me. But it's White Lily, and I get the unbleached if I can. It's not always available. I use self-rising for these, but in some of my cookies I use the White Lily all-purpose. So what your goal is to get it. See, this one's too soft, because when I put that through the pasta roller, I used to do this with a rolling pin. Whoo, that was work. But when I started Amy Sue's Kitchen, Eric got me a pasta maker from Italy. Now, I love the pasta maker, but it can't be submersed into water because the wheel on it is clay. So for some of you construction workers, or in my dad's case, he was a body man. He always fixed cars. He always had an air blower thing. So when I get done with my dumplings, Shelly, when I get done with my dumplings, I use an air blower to blow off my pasta maker because it can't be submersed in water. So, we make do. So what your goal is for the dough is to get it kind of tough, because if you drop your dumplings into the broth and then into that hot boiling broth, and your dumplings aren't tough, they disintegrate. And then you've got a big kettle of gravy, pretty much. So in my dough, and it's kind of chewy feeling. I mean, not that I'm going to chew it, but you know what I mean? It's going to go through the pasta roller pretty good. Yeah. So, Shelly, I've had to do in Jackson County, my kitchen was right beside the back door. And sometimes when I was doing, I think the most I've ever sold at one time was like 320 some orders of chicken and dumplings. That's a lot. Okay. So when I rolled out 6 boxes for that one. I don't think I used them all, but, when I rolled out dumplings for that, my kitchen there was flour everywhere. So I opened the back door. I just finally gave up. I opened the back door and took that blower and blowed everything outside. I mean, I didn't have any neighbors. It was easier to do that than to clean it up. And then it took forever to clean it up. So your goal is to get your dough a little chewy. Not like, see, this one I've not done anything with. It's just been in the flour a little bit and it's too soft. This is not like a biscuit. It is biscuit consistency when you start out, but you know how when you knead your biscuits too much and they get tough? I don't like that in a biscuit, but that's what you need in a dumpling, because you're going to drop it into that hot chicken broth and it's going to disintegrate if it's not a little tough. So That's what I'm doing. So, and let me pick up my phone and show you. There's my pile, okay? And I just lay wax paper between them. Now, when I get all of my bowl empty, there's my bowl. When I get my bowl empty, then I'll get rid of the bowl, and then I'll start rolling out with my pasta thing. It rolls it out like the size of a lasagna sheet. And then I use my pizza cutter to cut it all out. So that's where we're at right now. And as I cut them out, like I'll roll it out and then lay it on wax paper. And that's what this box is for. And this is a Gatorade box. I line it with wax paper. Let me just go ahead and tell you, do not use a cheap wax paper. I've been using the Cut Right wax paper for a long time. I did try a less expensive one once. No, because you're going to freeze these in this box. And when I get done with this full batch, it'll be above the line here. I tried doing it on a cookie sheet. There just wasn't enough room. The wax paper fits perfectly in the Gatorade box. And then as I cut them out, I'll lay about 2 big strips, lengthwise of the wax paper. And then I cut them into, and I can hear my mom's voice when I do this, because sometimes I'd cut them too big and she'd say, Amy Sue, them's too big, get them at matchbox size. I'm like, oh. But anyway, yeah, if you're dipping them up after they're cooked and you get one that's too big, sometimes it slides out the side of the bowl and then you're like, oh, what have I done? So matchbook size. And at one point, Mom always had a matchbook or one of them little paper matchbooks, or the box sitting beside me. Right there, she'd say, right there, that size. And at one point, I was getting them too thick with the rolling pin. Well, my pasta maker has a setting on it that I've found that is perfect. And if I set it, I think it's like 3.5 or 4. I don't remember, but it's already set. If I set it there and I roll them out, I can get 4, a little over 4 sometimes, gallon Ziploc bags of frozen dumplings. What happens is I freeze them in this box. Once they're set and they're frozen, then I use a Fry Daddy basket, with a bunch of holes in it, because something like this is too small. This is, that's what I sprinkle flour with. So you need something with bigger holes, and you're going to shake the excess flour off, because that excess flour some of it still stays, and you need that to kind of thicken your broth a little bit. But if you got too much, then you've got, dumpling casserole. Don't get me wrong. I've seen people slice that and eat it at porch sitting one year. I was like, what? And me and Mom were just sitting there laughing. And I said, it was time to clean up. And I'm like, Mom, I'm just going to throw these dumplings away because they've set here in this pan. We put them in we had a deep pan like this. And they had dipped and dipped and dipped until it was about like this. And I said, they've set here and they've got gelled. It's like a casserole now. Well, people got mad. Oh, no, you will not. I'm going to get me some of that. They started cutting it like a casserole. I mean, it looked like bread pudding, okay? They started cutting it like that and putting it on paper plates and microwaving it, and it turns out we didn't throw any of it away. So, yeah. But that's what I do to make the dumpling. Now, sometime when I've got some time, and usually I don't have time when I'm making the broth, because that's the day that somebody's wanting dumplings, But like I said, dumplings are the least expensive, okay? They're more work, but they're least expensive. And I like to do this anyway, if you buy I think at Walmart, Kroger, around there, you can get a 10-pound bag of leg quarters for like $5.90, $6, something like that. Now, normally, if I'm going to fry chicken or something like that, I want to get a whole chicken that's, beautiful, and because some people like that white meat, and I'm okay with white meat, and I do get some whole chickens to go in my chicken and dumplings. But the best broth you will ever eat is made from those leg quarters, because thigh meat it's the most flavorful. It's the richest, makes the best broth. And if you're going to, I've seen people do this. It's gross. If you go and just buy a bag of boneless, skinless chicken breast, and you think you're going to throw that in some water and have some rich broth, you wrong. You wrong. It's awful. It's awful. You need that fat meat in there. You need the bone in there. It just makes the best broth. Yes. Yes, Shelly, the dark meat has the best flavor, but a lot of people don't like it, and that's fine too. But if I made my chicken and dumplings without dark meat, you'd be like, hey, something's wrong with these, But that's why. I think it was Alton Brown said, or Alton Brown, however you say his name. Anyway, that real sciencey guy that is a chef. I like him, by the way. He's a little weird, but I like him. He said thigh meat is the best meat that you can get on a chicken. And I got to noticing, yeah, he's right. I mean, white meat is pretty good if you like white meat, and I do, but it can get dry. But how I keep mine from getting dry is when I cook my chicken for my chicken and dumpling broth. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Audra's like, I want some. Of course you do. I'm freezing these. I won't be cooking any until like next week. But I always remember my Audra. Anyway, when you cook your chicken, and I cook some white meat too, as well as the dark meat. I put mine in a roaster or crock pot. It depends on how much I need. When I turn it off to let it cool, I don't take the chicken out right away. I let the chicken cool inside the broth a little bit till I can handle it to debone it, And my mama used to just cook a chicken and throw the dumplings in there, bone and all. I want the bone out. It has to be out. I can't do that. So if you let your chicken cool off somewhat in the broth and not pull it out when it's hot, immediately, pull it out when it's hot, it soaks back into the meat, and then you've got a moist, even white meat, moist chicken breast. It's good too, because sometimes if you pull it out right away and you're, because I've done that. I've been in a hurry, and it may just be in my mind. I doubt it though. But then when I taste the chicken and dumplings and I get a white piece of chicken, I'm like, oh man, if that wasn't in that broth, that would choke me to death. There's a difference. But anyway, yeah. So after I get these all done like this, and Mom would say, if it wasn't tough enough, she'd say, play with that dough a little bit more. It needs to be tougher. It needs to be tougher. She's something else. But anyway, she would always come over to check on me to make sure I wasn't procrastinating when it was porch sitting time. Now, we've canceled porch sitting for the past 2 years because of COVID, because I ain't fooling with all that garbage. But for porch sitting, I would roll out 6-8 boxes of dough. And there has never been, that one time there was almost, but there has never been dumplings left over at porch sitting. They're always gone. And so after I do that, then I roll them through the pasta maker and I lay them on the wax paper and I freeze them. Once they're frozen and I bag them up, I date them because they'll stay pretty good in the freezer, in a Ziploc bag. Freezer Ziploc bag, nothing cheap, okay? You have to use the freezer brand because it's a little thicker. Or the Ziploc brand, but freezer seal, because of the thickness. But yeah, they'll last about 3 months without getting freezer burnt. But after that, I wouldn't. Yeah, so I like to make them ahead. And sometimes when I hear, somebody's had yes, Maggie did. I was teaching Maggie how to roll out dumplings like I do. I mean, obviously she knew how to roll out dumplings, but I was teaching her my way when we had the kitchen. But yeah, they'll last about 3 months. And then sometimes, I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm from the South, I'm from Kentucky. When somebody passes away that you take food, and if you work or sometimes you take bologna and stuff, but if you don't, are not working or not busy at the time, then you take home cooking. So dumplings, I have found, are the best to do that with. So that's how I make my dumplings. And I don't know. Maybe after I get done, it takes me a little while. I'm a little slow right now because my arms are sore. But anyway, from the gym experience yesterday, yes, that's what I do, Shelly. That's why if you've got, I mean, I know some people work all the time and they don't have time to take home cooking. And some people that do that have hired me to make something for them to take. And I thought that was really sweet because they were concerned that it needed to be home cooking, you know. So, but yeah, that's what I'm a little sore today from the gym, but not my legs. After I did that, I don't know, some kind of crippled up duck pose. It was bad, but I'm a little sore just in my arms because I did the bicep curl and right here, and I upped the weight on the thing because I was doing. I didn't even break a sweat the day before. I'm like, this is too easy. So, and I think I was doing like 20 pounds then. So I upped the weight on it. And yeah. And the shoulder press is really the only thing I have trouble with. Like I can pull stuff to me because I'm used to lifting dumpling broth and all this stuff. Yeah, I was a crippled duck, all right. But I'm not used to pushing stuff away from me. So, my arms are sore. But yeah. That's the beginning of chicken and dumplings. I think at one time when John Russell was doing my videos for Amy Sue's Kitchen, all of those are on YouTube, by the way, Amy Sue's Kitchen, but you got to go back, a lot of them are just me and Kim goofing off, but the professional cooking videos, I think there was only like 4 or 5, but the ones that John Russell produced and, made are on YouTube on Amy Sue's Kitchen. So if anybody wants to watch those, you're welcome to. The first one I ever did was the feta cheeseburger, and I was a nervous wreck. So, and I was looking at John, and I was supposed to be looking at Chris, the other camera guy. And at the end, John was like, smile, or John had warned me to smile at the end. And Chris, during the last shot, he looked at me and went, so at the end of that one, I'm going, I look like a nut. But anyway, Pam, Kim is happy as she can be. She worships the ground my dad walks on. I don't know. I don't see him much. I just, Dad's birthday's coming up, and I'm going to have a little shindig here. He knows it because you got to tell a working man, hey, be at my house on certain day at certain time because you have plans. Don't plan to work. So, otherwise he's like, oh, I got a load of cement coming. I can't, so you got to tell a working man that you can't surprise him. And it's his 75th birthday. So it's kind of important. But anyway, that's how I do the dough for my dumplings. Now, I put all kinds of stuff in the broth because you can't just cook a chicken and taste the broth and be like, because it's not good. You got to add stuff. And I add, it's called Better Than Bouillon, but it used to be really salty. Me and Mom had a trouble getting it, to taste good and not be too salty. So I found at Costco, low sodium, Better Than Bouillon chicken base, and I buy it by the crate. I no longer have a membership to Costco, but my daughter-in-law does. So the last time she went, she bought me a crate. I buy more stuff at Sam's Club, and I couldn't see keeping 2 memberships. But anyway, yeah. So that's one thing that I put. And yes, Shelly, that's good stuff. It's good stuff. And then, of course, pepper and butter, a little bit of bacon grease. And if you don't put bacon grease in it, some of my customers will be like, I don't taste the smokiness from the bacon. Okay, you little smart aleck. Not many people can have that kind of a palate, but some of my customers do. But I always keep bacon grease on hand. I'm sorry. It's a Southern thing, I guess. And there is something called chicken powder. It's like the bouillon cubes, only it's powder form. Sometimes I throw a little bit of that in there just to make sure. And sometimes I just buy maybe a box or 2 of chicken stock to put in there, or actually it's not chicken stock, it's chicken broth. There's a difference. And sometimes it'll get that celery type flavor. And I put poultry seasoning. That's a key ingredient. So, and some people use turmeric. I don't, because Mom never did. I probably should, but I don't. But I put just a drop or two of yellow food coloring. Sometimes if you spill it, your dumplings are orange. But the customer always buys with their eyes first. And if you serve them a white, pasty looking dumpling, they're like, looks kind of doughy. But if you put a little drop of food coloring in it, yellow food coloring, they're like, oh, wow. And Denver one time said, I don't like chicken and dumplings. It tastes like wet bread to me. Well, then he ate 5 bowls. So that ended. So, and then Doug Vaughn said to me one time at Port Sid, Amy, I don't like chicken and dumplings. No offense. I'm like, okay, it's fine. So it was like 2 or 3 years later. He's like, can I have a bowl of those chicken? I'm just going to try. And he said, I don't like them, no. I'm like, okay. So he ate some, and then he come back and he said, Amy, I lied to you. Can I have some more? So chicken and dumplings can be good if you make them right. I'm like Denver. I don't like just wet bread. Best wet bread ever, Shelly says. Yeah, but they have to have some flavor for me. And buttermilk cornbread without sugar in it. You don't want that in your... Oh, thank you, Debbie. Yeah, Debbie's had my chicken and dumplings many times. Many times. She was my neighbor for a minute. So, that's how I make my dumplings. I might come back on later and or maybe post a picture of how they look in the box layered, and before I throw them in the freezer. But they're gonna stay in the freezer till next week. Because I mean, don't roll them out in a box like this. 6-pound box. They get that thick. I mean, with all the layers, they're about that thick. Oh, yeah. Julie, you do like dumplings. I remember. Yeah. So, if you make them and here's why I freeze them, because we've made like 320 some orders. I told you, you can't roll out a dumpling and keep up with the person dropping them in the broth if you have that many orders. So if you roll them out and freeze them and then just use them out of the freezer, out of the Ziploc bag that you end up putting them in, it does cool off your broth a little bit. But you got it on boil, so it's going to heat back up really quick. But they don't stick as bad. Because when me and Mom first discovered it, she's like, hot dog. She said, I like this better, because I couldn't keep up with her at the restaurant, and I was pregnant with Denver and couldn't hardly reach I couldn't keep up with her dropping them in the broth, and she couldn't keep up with the customers eating them. And so we finally figured out a way, hey, we can freeze these dumplings, and then both of us can drop them in the broth. And we still couldn't keep up with the customers eating them, but so that's how I do it. So next time, if I have time, or if I have a camera person here, I will show you how I do the broth, but don't count on that one because that's usually a busy day. So, but I will freeze these. They don't freeze overnight. The ones in the middle, you have to have about 3 days in the freezer. And I put them in my upright freezer that is a deep freeze, not... you can put them in a freezer in like your regular fridge, but what I noticed about those are, especially after you bag them, that it thaws too quick or too often, and then they start sticking to each other, and it's not good. But I've been doing this for many years, so I've learned a thing or two that makes it easier for me. So that's what we do. But anyway, that's how I make my dumpling. Now, the chicken and dumplings, that'll come eventually, sometime. I love you all, and I mean it.